Hi lovelies, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're returning. Now I thought today I would do a December wrap-up, basically a December happies, all the happy bits of December. So I'm going to start with the books I read, and the very first book that I read was this one, and it was such a mixed reading month. Now the first thing, this is from a charity shop, and just glance at the front cover, I thought I'd bought a book with Yoda on the front. It was only when I was halfway through the book that I realised that that was an angel and not Yoda. I don't know why. I must not have looked at it properly, but just glancing at it, can you see it, or is it just me? Justine Garder's The Christmas Mystery, charity shop find. In December I was reading my winter shelf, and yeah, I thought I would start with this one, the one with Yoda on the front, or not. It says it's about a boy who finds a faded advent calendar in an antique shop, and within it he finds like all sorts of mystery. So out of the first window falls a piece of paper on which is written the first part of an extraordinary story about a small girl who travels back in time to Bethlehem. So it's about a girl who's gone missing. Now, this has got quite good reviews on Goodreads. I gave it a 1 star, and I very nearly DNF'd it. For me, this poked at religious trauma for me. This basically isn't the mystery fantasy that I wanted set around this old-fashioned advent calendar. This is basically Christian morals and teachings rammed into every chapter. Every chapter, you can see it coming a mile away. The chapter starts off with the next bit of travelling that they do with the story that they're finding in these advent calendar windows. But basically they're Christian stories, they're stories from the Bible, and it is shoehorned with just Christian teachings. Now, I was a Christian for a long time. I don't have a problem with Christianity. I do have a problem with church. I really dislike church. This felt like being in church again. You could see all the lessons and the moralising coming a mile away. Not my bag at all. Completely not my bag. I think I gave it half a star on the story graph, I think. Yeah, it was very nearly a DNF. After that absolutely disastrous Christmas read or winter read, I'm coming back to my bookcase. Do you know what? I literally can't shake how much I disliked that book so intensely. What do I want to read now? I'm almost tempted to go for one of these mysteries with missing kids, but there was a missing kid in that last one, and I'm not sure whether I'm up for like another missing child. I was going to go for this one, but you know, that theme of that last book, like the mom being at home having lost her child, and that just being not even mentioned really, like the unfairness of that, and the fact that that trauma is not addressed, and like we're still talking about the magic of Christmas. Well, not for that mom at home. Oh my gosh, can you hear? I'm still so triggered. And I'm thinking this is from the dad's point of view, and I want something from the mom's point of view. Oh my goodness me. Well, look, this is very much from a woman's point of view. Look at that cover. Isn't that cover just hysterical? It looks like all of those heads are like photoshopped on, but I love it for that. So I could go for Little Women, Good Wives. I think now we've got a murder mystery. We've got The Winter King. What do I want to read? I could go for the quintessential Christmas book. I'm going to go for this one. I'm going to go for Christmas by Candlelight by Karen Swan. I could go for, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this to pull me back into the Christmas spirit. I'm going to go for these two. I'm going to read Moominland Midwinter first, and then I'm going to read Christmas by candlelight. That's what I'm going to do. So, Tove Jansson. Now, I don't know whether I'm saying that name correctly. I am actually dyslexic on my Y and J. I can't hear the sounds and I can't read them either. And I'm always mixing them up. So if I'm saying a Y instead of a J, that's what's going on. So Tove is actually one of my very favourite authors of all time. I knew that Moominland Midwinter was going to be a really fantastic read. This just looked like your classic bog standard Christmas novel. I thought that would be light and nice to have a go with. But first, did you notice that they were on a different shelf? Now, if I take you off the stand, all of my winter reading now is on here. I'm actually in my doll. It used to be just my doll room for collecting dolls. It's now my doll room library because I've got just so many bookcases in here. Look, there's bookcases all the way round. So I decided to rotate the dolls more, put some away, and to make room for books in here. And this sort of half bookcase that's over the top of a radiator here, I thought that this could be my seasonal shelf with winter, autumn and spring summer at the top. So that's what I did in December as well. I really rejigged all of my poetry, my classics and my fiction books, and I also made a seasonal bookshelf. So a lot of these books were chosen off this bottom winter shelf, and they were, if you remember, my £10 charity shop haul winter books. I took £10 to a charity shop and I bought any books that had snow or ice or winter themes anywhere on the covers. That's what I was reading. That is what this book was from. It's also what this book is from. Tove isn't, unfortunately. I've never found Tove in a charity shop, but I did buy myself some Tove books for December, which I'll show you. But let me show you the winter shelf before I talk about anything else. This is the winter shelf here, and you can see what I've done, which I think is really, really cute. It's my sort of thing anyway. Is I've put some winter dolls. So there's Abby Abominable, linked to the Abominable Snowman there. That's a Monster High doll. There is this little Snow Queen fairy doll. We've got Barbie and Ken there from the Winter Olympics, and then we have an LOL doll there in her winter get up. And you can see here are all of my winter books so far that have gone on here. So some of these were from the £10 book haul, some weren't. So what did I read off here? I read a few of these. After this disastrous half a star to 1 star read, I then went for something really safe that I knew I would love. And yes, a 5-star read. So this is where Moomin Troll wakes up when he should be hibernating. He wakes up and is called out into the snow to play in the snow for the winter. So he sees a world that is his own world, but it's a world that's just so different. It's been transformed by winter, and while all of the other Moomins sleep, he has all of these snowy adventures and meets new friends and just sees the world in a totally new light, and it is just wondrous. This is Snow, Moomin Troll whispered to himself. I've heard about it from Mother, and it's called Snow. And off he plodded, making his first little tracks in this strange new world. Now, Tove's writing, it's just so real. It puts you there, the children's writing and her adult fiction, it just puts you right there in the scene. It is so simply done, and yet it's just so magical. And if you've never read any of the Moomin books, get them, they are fabulous. So that was a 5-star. I then went on to the Karen Swan Christmas by Candlelight, which was another one of my books of £10 from the charity shop. This was a DNF. Oh my gosh, it was kind of sort of late teenage, early 20s, angsty, sort of go-getters being trapped in a house by the snow. I didn't get that far in. I just knew it was not going to be my thing at all. And her boobs are mentioned about 10 times within 2 short chapters, and people ogling her and her falling over and being aware of her boobs and saying, yes, I know I've got boobs. And I was just like, nope, I'm not going to be able to do this. So we have got a 1-star, a DNF, and a 5-star straight away in December. So I went running back to Tove again. This is one of the Moomin comic strip books. So there are a few of these, and then there are a few that her brother did as well. And these are just glorious. I would love to get the entire set of these. I mean, look at these characters. It's just such classic characters in this. I love the artwork. So that was a 5-star read for me as well. I got so excited then reading Tove, and then realising that she's got more adult fiction books than I realised. Now, the last time I read her adult fiction, there was only the winter and the summer book anywhere to be found, and when I googled what adult fiction does she have, it only ever came up with the summer book and the winter book, which I've got and I've read. So I thought she'd only ever written 2 adult novels. So whether these were translated more recently, I don't know, but there are a few now. I think there are about another 3 for me to find. So I ordered one for Christmas as well. It's got icicles on the cover. I got this second hand on World of Books. I think I paid about £3 for this. Another 5-star read. So this is a story. It's so gently and quietly and simply written, and yet it just transports you immediately into the scene as if you are there. So this is set in a remote Swedish hamlet, and there is a strange woman who lives with a great big dog, and she wanders around. She doesn't have any friends. She lives with her brother who's got a disability. She just watches people and just takes everything in, and it's always left a bit ambiguous as to, is she a good person? Is she not a good person? What soon becomes very clear is that she is looking out for her brother. To do that, she tries to befriend a famous writer of children's stories who lives in this hamlet, who's getting old, needs some help delivering mail, and who doesn't cope in the snow. And this old lady is very rich. You can't quite work out whether this strange young woman who offers to help, Katri, is trying to swindle her, and it's kind of left. It's kind of left so you're trying to work it out, and it has a twist, and it has things being carried out onto ice flats to disappear. There's lots of symbolic things. There's a rabbit house and the symbology between the wolf and the rabbit and the hunter and prey. Who is hunter? Who is prey? It's just brilliant. The blurb says, in the deep winter snows of a Swedish hamlet, a strange young woman fakes a break-in at the house of an elderly artist in order to persuade her that she needs companionship. But what does she hope to gain by doing this? And who ultimately is deceiving whom? In this portrayal of two women grappling with truth and lies, nothing can be taken for granted. By the time the snow thaws, both of their lives will have changed irrevocably. It's just brilliant. It's simply written, but not simply written. Again, she's just a genius writer. What else did I read? Oh, and then I decided to go for another one of my £10 charity shop haul books. This was a bit of a mammoth of a book. This is nearly 800 pages, sprayed pages, which I love, sprayed edges. So this is an international thriller sensation, The Crow Girl by Eric Axel Sund. This is a genre that I don't normally read. I don't normally read murder mysteries. I just don't. I have a very vivid visual imagination. I don't like those pictures in my head. I've always stuck very clearly within my comfort zone for reading, but I thought, let's start getting a bit braver. I'm getting a bit of a scaredy cat and I don't want to be, so I thought, let's just read it. And do you know what? This is so gruesome. It involves lots of children as well, and like the worst imaginable things happening. Some of the scenes in it actually made me feel like physically sick, but it was gripping and it was fabulous. And I thought I'd worked out a twist, and then it doubled back on itself, and then it twisted again. So it was really a good read. I think I gave this 4 stars. However, what's happened since I've read it is, like, I worry about those images are still in my head, and I don't want them in my head. Whereas some books, they kind of live in your head and they turn into a fine wine. This is turning into sort of a bloodthirsty vinegar, and I don't want those images in my head. I did think I would keep this and reread it again, but I don't want it on my shelf anymore. So I'm not going to give up on murder mysteries. I do have another murder mystery on the winter shelf, but I'm not sure yet whether it's the genre for me. Anything really sad and tragic and cruel, all the images I don't want to let in. So I enjoyed it when I read it. I don't enjoy the aftertaste. That is The Crow Girl. Lots of children going missing, and imagine Silence of the Lambs in a primary school, and you kind of got it. So yeah, The Crow Girl, read it if you're brave enough. Then I really wanted to read some Shakespeare for December, so of course winter reads, it's got to be The Winter's Tale. Oh my gosh, did I love this. I didn't think anything could get close to Hamlet, but this was just a fantastic read, and I really loved this Oxford World's Classics edition. Lots of great notes in the front, brilliant footnotes all the way through. A great edition. So I think as and when I can afford them, I might be buying my Shakespeare in these Oxford World Classic editions. I just loved it. Loved the front cover as well. Loved the characters in this. Loved the fact that I finally found where the famous stage direction of exit left followed by a bear is. It's actually in here. When I got to it and read it, I squealed because I knew that was a famous Shakespeare stage direction, but I hadn't realised that it was in this. Loved this so much. Yeah, it's right up there with Hamlet for me. Loved it. And then it was really close to Christmas then, and I just wanted to do another Christmas read. This was another one from my £10 charity shop haul. So this is Portia McIntosh's Love and Lies at the Village Christmas Shop. I thought I might DNF this after 2 chapters. It is exactly what it looks like. It is a story about a young woman who lives in a village. She's taken over her mum's Christmas shop, which is also her house. She lives above the shop, in the middle of this village. I think it's in Cornwall. It's at Cornwall or Devon. It's somewhere like that. Marham Bay, an idyllic seaside town. So she takes over the Christmas shop after her mother passes away. She makes a promise to her mum to always look after the shop, but somebody comes to town, a rich and handsome famous businessman who wants to build a new development in the village and needs to buy and demolish the shop. And because she's only renting the shop, and they've always rented it, of course she's in a dire strait. She's got no spare money to buy it, especially as soon as this guy's very rich and he's offered loads of money, and a love-hate relationship develops. It is an enemies to lovers storyline. It's a romance set in this Christmas shop, set in a little village. Romance books are also, like murder crime mysteries, are not my thing. So it was just so twee, but do you know what, within 3 chapters I was invested in the characters. I really liked her and I really liked him, and although it was like a very light read and very twee and very predictable for this type of book, I was still invested and I still really enjoyed it. Did I give this a 3-star, I think, which is good for me, and I'm going to keep it on my shelf, and I might even read it next year again. I just loved it. It was a nice, wholesome, easy Christmas read, so that was a goodie. And I thought I would throw a bit of poetry into the mix. This is a reread for me. This is by Rough Trade Books, and it's the poetry of Selena Godden, who is probably my favourite poet. She's absolutely brilliant. If you've never seen her perform, Google her name on YouTube and you will see her performing her poetry. It is spectacular. I'll put a link to one of her videos in my description box below the video. Do yourself a favour and go and listen to her perform. So this is 13 pieces of courage and resistance. Pessimism is for lightweights, and in here you've got poems called Courage is a Muscle, Soup, It's All About the Pathways, you've got The Day We Stopped, Sorry to Trouble You, Red, Old Blood, Young Teeth, Sushi, all sorts of things in here. Brilliant poetry. Can't get through the year without throwing a bit of Selena Godden in. So that was poetry for December. And then my daughter asked me to do a read with her, buddy read. Now my middle daughter Poppy, she's 17. She is going to university in September of this year. So it's my last year. I haven't even got a full year left with her living at home, and we've always buddy read. We've got exactly the same reading taste. So from the minute she was old enough to be interested in my books on my bookshelf, we were buddy reading, and she adores reading. Now she had read this V.E. Schwab trilogy, A Darker Shade of Magic. This is book 2, A Gathering of Shadows, and then book 3 is The Conjuring of Light. And she's been nagging me to read these books since she's read them for months now, and I suddenly thought, I want to grab any chance that my daughter says she wants to buddy read something with me. Any any plans for YouTube videos or any reading challenges, even my own challenge, it'll be dropped to do that with her. So that's what I did, because I'm just soaking up all of these buddy reads while she's still at home. If you've had kids fly the nest, you'll know what I mean. And she was so excited when I got my own copies and started reading, and I loved it. This is a world where there are different Londons. There's Grey London, which is a London like ours with no magic in it at all. There is Red London, which is vibrant and full of magic. There is White London, which is where the magic is dying and everything's freezing, and they're at war with Black London, which has disappeared, destroyed by magic. And there are certain magicians, only two, that can travel between the worlds. Nobody else can travel between the worlds, because all the doors have been sealed to try and stop this black plague of magic from spreading. White London is the closest to Black London, and therefore that's why White London is in trouble. The other two Londons, Red and Grey, are sealed well away, with only these special magicians that can travel between them. And it is the story of the two remaining magicians that can travel, and the way that magic begins to seep out and take over and destroy. There are pirates in here, there are princes, there are massive battles. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Now, it is fantasy. It is it depends where you look. Some places say it's adult, some places say it's YA. Me and my daughter both agreed we feel like it's old. It feels like older YA fiction to read. It feels like very much like Six of Crows, and it feels very much like Crooked Kingdom. So if you like Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, it's that. It's got those kind of well fleshed out characters that are grouped together on an adventure against adversity. It's got that feel to it. Mine and my daughter's favourite books are Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, so this one came close to it. It also has elements of Lord of the Rings in there. For me, the book I read this in December. I also started this in December. These two ended up getting 4 stars because only because it just felt so similar to those other books that I mentioned. I kind of could imagine her sitting down and like coming up with the plot for this and thinking, what are the best bits of the Six of Crows, what are the best bits of Lord of the Rings, and then building the story around that. It just felt like something I'd read before. However, by the time I got to book 3, which I read at the beginning of January, it was so completely fleshed out by itself. I'd forgotten all of the other series that I've read, and it was standing alone by itself. And oh my gosh, it was such a read. It was so fabulous. So I read Darker Shade of Magic and started this one in December. Lovely fantasy books. If you're into fantasy and you love Six of Crows and you haven't read this, run to the shops now, don't stop, and go and get yourself that trilogy. One of you lovely lot, when I mentioned I was reading this in another video, told me that there's a book 4 that's come out. Oh look, it's got sprayed edges, which I love. So the Fragile Threads of Power has come out. It's not the same characters, but it is the same series, but set a bit further in the future. So some of the characters I think crisscross, but I bought one for me and one for my daughter. She didn't know about book 4 either. However, this is going to be another trilogy, and she's not even started writing the other 2 books yet, so we're both going to sit on these and wait for the other 2 books to be done before we start them. But that was really exciting as well in December. to take part in the Christmas Dickens read along. However, I read The Christmas Carol at the end of November. I was supposed to read all of the other little novellas, the Christmas novellas, over Christmas, but I kind of ran out of time. However, I did read the Chimes, so I ended up reading just A Christmas Carol and the Chimes, and I loved the Chimes so much. I ended up reading it a couple of times actually, and watching a adaptation of it as well on YouTube, just to let it really sink in. And I loved it. I loved it equally as much as A Christmas Carol. I think The Christmas Carol is very much looking out. It was Scrooge realizing he had things to change, and the solution is looking out, like giving more, being part of society more, seeing other people's issues more. Whereas with the Chimes, it was not a rich person this time, but a very poor person, having to see what they needed to fix by looking internally, and it was much more inward looking, like to have like self-love and self-worth, and not to look out for self-worth, but to bring self-worth from inside. So I think the solutions were either outward focused or inward focused, and I liked those two juxtapositions of those two tales. So I did read the Chimes, which I loved. I did start reading The Cricket on the Hearth. This is what got sacrificed to do the buddy read with my daughter. Oh my gosh, that made me jump. That is The Rag and Bone Man, believe it or not. Talking about Charles Dickens, and the Rag and Bone Man's going past in the car. Couldn't be more Dickensian, could it? Yeah, so I did start The Cricket on the Hearth, but I ran out of time. I didn't get to the Battle of Life, didn't get to the Haunted Man. Those are going to be for next year. It's a bit of a Dickens year. I say next year, this year now. But yeah, it was still great to read The Chimes, which is a brand new novella for me, so I loved that. I will link, is it Books and Things, the name of the channel that did it? Oh my gosh, I've forgotten. It's Katie. I'll link Katie below for all of her Dickens goodness over on her channel. Now, the only other book that I read in December was this absolutely fabulous classic, J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan, and you can see I tagged it to death just because it's just such a beautiful read, and I grabbed it at the very end of December because if you saw my last video, I went to the big Christmas Peter Pan exhibition at Blenheim Palace, which was so spectacular. I cried twice walking round. We got to meet Captain Hook. It was just so immersive, so magical, and just absolutely finished my year with the most magical high. This book is going to be, I think, a yearly read for me at Christmas time. It is so wonderful. All the proceeds for this book, I mentioned in that video, still go to Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital here in the UK. J.M. Barrie awarded the rights to Great Ormond Street, but after 50 years the rights of books run out, and they normally go into just general free for all then, but it's the only book that they ever decided that no, and the rights of a Peter Pan will forever stay with Great Ormond Street. Peter Pan, the boy who never grows up. You've got the Lost Boys, you've got Captain Hook, you've got flying pirate ships. Honestly, between these books, we kind of finished on pirates at the end of 2024. This covers some really deep layered themes. It's not just your basic fairy story. You've got themes of like motherhood, you've got themes of a mother's love and what that will do, and what happens when a mother's love isn't there, when nurturing isn't there. You've got themes of a mother's love in contrast to the natural selfishness of children. There's another fantastic theme of the imagined and the real, like when does something become real? And that is part of my spiritual path as well. I always say that the imagined is the way that magic gets in. That's a real pathway, and that's very much explored in this book too. And it was just the most magical way to finish the year. So if you've never read Peter Pan, go and buy it. This copy was only, I think this was $2.99 on Amazon. It's the Collins classic. It's just such a great read, well worth having on your bookshelf. So that's it, guys. That was December, my reading, a few trips out. It was a very, very quiet December. For New Year, I stayed in. The kids go to their dad's at New Year. I stay in with my dogs. My big dog is very scared of fireworks, so I always stay in. Over New Year, I watched all of the 1990 BBC version of Pride and Prejudice, which I absolutely adored. Also in December, I watched all seasons of Bridgerton as well, which was brilliant. So it felt like a real period drama viewing time in December. Also with the kids, I watched all three not the Harry Potter movies, but the Fantastic Beasts movies we watched, which I really loved as well. So period drama and fantasy, my viewing kind of mirrored the books I was reading. Got some wonderful parcels with presents in. I'm looking at this hand knitted mouse here that was sent by one of you gorgeous lot, with other things in the parcel. I've had a couple of parcels now for Christmas and it was just wonderful. If you want to see that, I might share that in another video. But yeah, that was it. December happies, books, reading, trips out, films, period dramas, tarot and oracle, and just a nice time was had. So guys, thank you so much for watching my December wrap up. Here's looking forward now to 2025 and making more videos if I can grab the time. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.